Welcome back, American Idol fans. I'm excited to do this review of this first audition episode of the final season 15 of American Idol. And I'm also going to be throwing in a lot of just little side comments that maybe just can give you more background information, because as I watch this, there's a lot of things that come back to me too about things that I wouldn't have known unless I would have gone through what I went through. So I thought it'd be fun to just share some of the little tidbits. I'm not planning on getting into anything too controversial. I just want to throw back, just give you guys a lot of little ideas for those of you that I know really have grown to love and enjoy the show. And let's just start with how you can tell that the whole tone of this final season is. Okay, we know for sure that the show needs to have a successful winner, because the reason the show is done is because if you look back, you can go all the way back to season 7, the halfway point, 7 and 8. It's like after season 8, there just really weren't any contestants that have done really well. I mean, Scotty McCreery's done well. And the thing is, country is that's half the audience, it seems like to me, of American Idol. And it's old traditional values. It's people that still buy CDs. It's people that are kind of 20, 30 years behind technology. And with all due respect, that's a special part of America. And they enjoy the American Idol thing. You'll see kind of a vibe from that tonight. A lot of the country people are really, really, really into this show. So we look at the people who have done well, Carrie especially, and Scotty. They've both done extremely well in country. Kelly Pickler's done really well. So you think about it, country's been a genre that if you're authentic on the show, you can go there and they'll receive you and support you. Okay, the problem is for some of these other people, like if you look at the last several years, look at Nick, look at Caleb, look at Candace, look at Phil Phillips did fantastic. See, here's the thing, you got to look at the long-term marketability. And everyone saw Phil Phillips from day one as being real marketable because he was authentic. And his vibe would fit the current climate. Okay, you look at some next year, Candace. Well, what was the difference? Well, the difference was Candace was R&B. And most of Americana isn't. R&B is a niche. It's kind of like jazz, I feel bad because not enough people listen to jazz. Oh well, those of us that do get it and love it, and we get a lot more out of it than most other genres because of the creative elements that are there. Well, guess what? Most of Americana doesn't care about that. They don't appreciate the soulfulness of R&B music necessarily. And so Candace had a hard call because it's like you create this image on the show, and the ideal scenario is when you can just continue it. That's what I thought we were going to do with David, until certain decisions at the record label, where they decided that, oh, hey, he's 17, and David decided, yeah, I'm 17, I guess I'll only be that age once. Well, that's all they needed, because then they decided they were going to try to make him a Justin Bieber. And David spent the last several years, I think, getting reacquainted with who he really is musically and deciding what his direction really should be. And I think it's going to be more what you saw in Idol than it's what you've seen in his recordings. Even though lately he's done a lot more inspirational type stuff, and that's the direction I think he's planning on going. Well enough. Let's get back to the current contestants. Let's start with the very beginning. Okay, what is it that the show's trying to do? Well, they're introducing the new personalities. Okay, let's just decide how many of these are just good stories, how many of them do they really think have the potential, because I want to quickly distinguish between the two categories. And I'm going to give you some insights, I think, that most people aren't going to be aware of as far as how decisions are made. Like sometimes you think the judges are making the decisions, and again, with all due respect, the producers are really calling the shots, and they strongly suggest things to the judges. And the judges are making their decisions, but usually the decisions have already been made, okay? So the point is, the judges don't know who these people are, but the producers have seen them a few times. So they already have a lot of this info, and the judges, like I say, they come into, they're not really they're more like seasonal employees. You know, they're not there all the time, so they have to be brought up to speed of what's been going on and a lot of this information. So the producers really are the ones that are thinking about the content, the viewing public, you know, what stories are going to be the most interesting. You know, they're really trying to think what's going to be the most successful to get viewership up, right? Okay, now at the same time, I'm sure that they've got some really good, amazing artists that we're going to hear in these auditions. Some that are going to really stand out and probably be able to put in that category of, okay, this person legitimately has the full package. That's what we're really looking for. Okay, so let's figure out if we can predict who's going to win American Idol this season from the auditions as early on as possible by just eliminating obvious elements, okay? Let's start with contestant number 1. Okay, we have Michelle Marie, 15 years old. Her whole life has been centered around American Idol. I think that's a great story. She's the poster kid of this season and really of the whole show. You know, David kind of fit that his season. You know, he first season of Idol. That's what started him feeling this passion towards music at a very high level. Well, that seems like what this little Michelle Marie is like. But what we need to understand is, yes, she's got a good story, but does she really have the package, the full skill set? And I can tell you right now, she's got a nice voice, but she does not, you know, I just don't see her having the image that's going to be necessary. Even in country, you know, she just doesn't quite have the look yet. Now, maybe they can do a makeover with her and do something there, but I just don't see her having the right image, unfortunately. I think she's got a fantastic innocence about her and sweetness, and again, it's a great story. She's someone that you want to see do well, but I just see limitations. There's going to be people that are going to be way stronger than her. Okay, let's move on to the second contestant, Josiah Siska. Now again, we've got another country person. Remember, country is the majority of the audience for this show, so they're kind of front loading the country personalities. So Josiah Siska comes in. You know, he's singing a song by Johnny Cash. He's 17. He sounds like he's 50. He's got this really cool voice. But when you really listen to him and dig deep, you can tell he doesn't have that depth yet. He might have some potential. You know, he's someone we're gonna have to hear more of. But I don't see him lasting very long either. I think he's just interesting and fun and good personality, good story. But just don't think he's going to make it that far. Okay, contestant number 3, Lindita. Now, Lindita is very interesting for a few reasons. Okay, first of all, let's look at her from a few different paradigms. Paradigm number 1 is as a person. You know, she's someone that came from Kosovo. You know, she's not from here, but she seems like someone that really appreciates the opportunity she has living here. And it seems like she's got a lot of very strong will that she can focus and do very difficult things. She lost 150 pounds. You know, she looks really good, you know, compared to what she showed in those earlier pictures. I mean, that's a hard decision to be humble enough and honest enough with yourself that you're willing to take on the challenge of really trying to improve the quality of how your body feels and looks. And that's a tough situation because you don't want people to feel obligated just because Lindita did that they should do it. But at the same time, maybe there are more people that should. You know, maybe Lindita really is a great mentor for more than just her singing. You know, I thought it was really cool too that she's able to find a mentor in her own husband to help her. Having you know, that's a fortunate thing for her with the personal fitness side of things. As far as the singing side of things, she needs someone like me to help her with her singing. And what I mean by that is, technically, okay, here's something I want to explain. One thing I've realized is there's a balance between understanding how to use technique and overdoing technique. Like, some people are purely technical singers and they can really do a lot of cool things, but for some reason when they're done, you know they've been impressive, but there's something missing. You don't feel like the payoff was all there emotionally. So what's interesting is technical skills should be used to create emotion, not just to show what they can do. So what I'm saying is, with Lindita, I kind of feel like she went at a 9.9 pace technically, showing all the things she could do, but she did it at the expense of emotion. She left out a lot of emotion. And what I mean by that is, there was intensity, but there wasn't subtlety. It was all heavy, 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 and not enough softness. Okay, a good example is, let's contrast Lindita to the guy we're going to talk about a little later, that is probably the strongest contestant that I've seen on the show in years. And we'll talk a little bit about what he does, and we'll contrast Lindita in a little bit, okay? Now, what I would say is, I think she's already shown us everything she can do, and I don't know how she's going to be able to follow that up with anything that's going to be even close to as impressive. And I really think she overdid it. It was just over the top. So again, Lindita's good. I really admire her. I think she needs to get some ortho work done still for her look, but her body is transformed beautifully. That's very, very important, I think, for other people to realize. I've seen a lot of really good singers that they've got a few too many pounds. And unfortunately, that's a delicate situation. Hey, I can talk about it right here. I'll be honest with people. Okay, there's a politically correct way of looking at weight, and there's reality. Okay, there's a reason that Ruben Studdard lost the weight he did. There's a reason that Jennifer Hudson did. There's a reason that Jordan Sparks did. Okay, 3 perfect examples. Okay, why? At first I thought they were the role model for, you don't have to be skinny and model-like to be successful in this business. But they still decided to go there. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of other reasons. One thing you got to look at is what people's motivations are. So all I'm saying is, there's a lot to be learned from here. Don't take it personal, but I think a lot of people need to take it a little bit more to heart than they are. Okay? I'll leave it at that. Now, another thing that was kind of funny about Lindita is that when she was doing all those runs, and Harry says, wow, I really liked how you were staying so close to the melody. And what was funny is I noticed a couple other comments from some people that were blogging about the night, and they actually thought Harry was serious. And I hope those of you that heard Harry realize, at least it was hitting me over the head with a 2-before, that he was being absolutely sarcastic, that she wasn't even close to where the melody is. She was all over the place. But the whole thing is, I think Harry realized the same thing I did, which is she's impressive, but it just doesn't seem like that's going to last. It's going to be hard to keep reinventing with that kind of approach. All right, next contestant. We have Billy Bob. And let me just say, Billy Bob is the first example of a personality with a cool story, but nobody thought he was going to make it through. Okay, he was good, but he wasn't even close to being either, playing the guitar. It was real just strumming chords, and his singing was just very basic, and it just wasn't that good. He looked like an interesting character, but his knee-high to a grasshopper thing, it just seemed he was a little over-rehearsed for the role he was trying to play. And I totally agreed with him that he just didn't fit. All right, now let's move on to the next contestant. Okay, you also notice all these country folks. Okay, just remember who the viewing audience is. Keep that in mind as we look forward to and start lining up the pecking order of who we think has the best potential to go far in the competition. All right, now Lee John. What's interesting here And if I said his name wrong, I apologize. It'll take me a little bit to make sure I got everyone's name down. But he's the person that they showed as an actor in one of those opening scenes. Okay, now, when I was on the show, people used to talk to us about FaceTime and this and that, and it does seem a little strange that they would actually take a contestant and give him that extra exposure up front. Okay, there's a term they used to use, and it said, yeah, the show's pimping this contestant. You know, they used to say that that happened with certain contestants each season. You know, the season David was on it, you know, he definitely was frequently seen in advertisements and press things, and so people felt that he might be getting an unfair advantage in exposure. And I agree. I mean, it if you look at it, that any exposure is good, and it just reminds people who you are. And then after you hear someone's name and see their picture enough, it becomes, you know, they become ingrained in you. So, you know, you think, why would the show already start pimping or favoring a contestant by putting him in an early scene? I don't know. We'll have to see how things develop. So, how did he perform? I think he had a great voice. Very nice sound. How mature it was, the control, it seemed a little shaky. Again, he's got a good sound. I'm not sure how he's going to hold up week to week. We'll have to see. I'm not sure how much depth of musicianship there is in there. He definitely has potential, but he just seems young to me. Like I say, I think that he's going to get eaten up by some of the more seasoned contestants. So we'll have to see. Like I say, he's got a cool vibe. I could see him being a Justin Bieber type of kid, marketability-wise. But we'll have to see. I mean, he seems like a real nice kid. Seems like he's grounded. You know, he didn't seem to have a... He does have a little bit of an ego there. You can see that coming through, and that's okay. But again, we'll have to see how he controls that, how he manages it. Because that kills a lot of contestants. They don't last long. All right. Let's continue. Okay. Now, we got another country person, but this person is fantastic. Ginny Rose. What a story. You know, someone that literally lives off the grid. They don't have electricity. They don't even have cables there. I mean, it's like an unbelievable story that there's people that live like that. And to think that, here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Okay, country people, old school. The only time they fire up the generators, watch American Idol. Okay, well, there's just something. There's a family vibe about the show. You got to give the show credit for that. And you know, her story is a perfect story. I love her story. And the thing is, the girl's actually got some musicianship. She's got some musicality. I mean, that percussion stuff she's doing on the cello is really pretty advanced, and it was, her time was there. Now her singing was rough. It was okay, but it's like, again, I don't see her having the staying power. But what a cool personality, and boy, you're pulling for her that something can come from this, because she's just such a real person, and her talent, so it seems so just natural, so organic. So I'm interested to see what happens with her. I don't, again, think that she's got enough depth from what I'm hearing. So again, a lot of country folk showing up here this first episode. Let's move on to the next contestant. We've got Sonica Vade. Now, Sonica is the first kind of curveball from most of these other contestants, and that is, here she is, another foreigner, 20 years old, Indian parents, or she's Indian, but her parents grew up in India, moved to the U.S., so you think of, again, it's a good story. You know, it's real. She's a real American, but she probably really appreciates the opportunities that she has here. Okay, now as far as Sonica goes, she's the first who I would say just pure tone. She's kind of like a David Archuleta where her tone jumps out at you. There's a purity to her voice, there's a humility, there's a genuineness to her. She's got a great story that she's the first generation born here in America. Her parents came here to seek out the American dream, and it seems like they have a tight family bond. And so, it's really nice to see this kind of thing. America's going to love this. And I think a lot of people are going to root for her because she's small, she's pretty, she doesn't seem to be too full of herself. She comes across kind of as a musical theater type of singer. She's got really clear diction, and her tone quality is really, really good. So again, it'll be interesting to see, can she grow? And we need to see, she's doing what Lindita didn't do. In other words, Lindita's not leaving anything to the imagination as far as what she might do next. If anything, we're kind of worried. How's she going to avoid a train wreck at some stage? Just because she's overcommitted with all that technical licks and runs. Whereas Sonica, on the other hand, her vibe is just listen to my voice. And her whole thing was, I'm going to show you that I've got enough technique to do what I'm trying to do, but it's about the emotion first. The technique was secondary. So hers was better balanced. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I think you'll see that Sonica's got more potential because she's leaving a lot of, wow, let's see what she can do next. And we're not sure where she could go. She's left herself a lot of options. Okay, so strategic-wise, Sonica made a really good call with that song. I've never heard the song before. Okay, that's another interesting thing. They always say, well, pick a very well-known song. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. If the song is... See, if you understand your vehicle, look at a song as a vehicle. Okay, an artist needs to pick the right vehicles. They need to fit their skill set with the song and match it up. And that's a skill in and of itself. Okay, well, Sonica, to me, made a really good decision because the song it just was a beautiful melody, and it had dynamic and emotional contrast that was really easy to follow, and the melody was easy to follow, and just the flow, and it was simple. So again, she was able to make us feel something, and I think we want to feel that again. So everyone's going to be anxious to hear her next song. Lindita, not so much. Everyone's going to be more like on guard. What's she going to do next? Like, uh-oh. It's like you're already on the defensive waiting for something to just come powerfully at you. Whereas with Sonica, it's like you're moving forward, you're open, you want more. It's inviting, it's drawing you in. Okay, and this is again artistry in general, music in general. It's understanding some of these little subtleties. So I think Sonica is a really interesting contestant because we don't know enough about what she can do. She's done a good job of not throwing everything out there up front. So we're going to want to see what else she can do. So I would say I still don't know. I don't think she does have the depth. My gut's telling me she doesn't. I think she's going to max out at a certain point, but I think she's really good. I just think there are some stronger contestants that she's not going to be able to hang with. Let's just put it that way. Okay, we'll move on to the next contestant. The next contestant, I guess, is our first. We're going to try not to make fun of the guy because this is the first delusional contestant that's blatantly delusional, that really thinks he's good enough to get 3, heck, even 4 yeses. Not sure where he's going with that 4th one, but he tried to make a quick recovery, and you saw, okay, this guy's really, there's no way this image is going to work. This guy's one of those kind of like classic music geeks that's probably good in classical for his high school, but not really elite level potential from what, and after hearing him, it's pretty obvious. Yeah, he's a very average, kind of run-of-the-mill kind of kid, musician-wise, and he needs a lot of work. Now, having said that, um, I have to feel I was just kind of saying, Harry, you take this one, and you're absolutely right. And everything Harry said basically was what I was thinking too. That let's hurry up and get this guy on his way. And that ending scene with the family out there trying to be a cheerleader for the kid, and then the lyric and the moment was just too perfect. And for Ryan to pick up on it like that and just say, "Yep, so let's go, Joe." That was class. I love that moment. Way to go, producers. That was just excellent, excellent, excellent. I loved it. I'm not even going to mention any more about the guy though. We'll just pass on. Okay, I'm going to take a quick little break, and I'll come back for the next batch of contestants. Okay, let's move on to the next contestant, and that's going to be Joseph. Now, Joseph's our first delusional contestant, as far as they're every season we're going to have those people that show up and they just are sure that they're going to get 3 yeses, and this guy, hey, he was going to get 4 yeses. So I'm really impressed how he's going to get that 4th yes. And the guy tried to scramble and recover from it, and the producers kind of made him look kind of bad. And the funniest thing was when he sang, he was terrible, and Harry just was kind of making fun of him. And then the guy goes out with Ryan and his family, and they're there with signs, "Let's go, Joe. Let's go, Joe." And Ryan goes, "Yep, let's go, Joe." I loved it. That was classic. That was a great moment. Way to go, production team. You guys captured that moment beautifully. Really nice little humorous little twist to that. I loved it. Okay, so let's get back to a serious contestant. Rihanna, who is... Oh, actually, I'm going to just skip the Sylvia Lee, the little yodeler chick that seemed like she couldn't put a cork in it. It was hilarious. That was just so funny to hear somebody talk that much at 16 and just keep going. And boy, she was ready to go another 10 minutes. So that was fun. Again, it's great to find these personalities. Again, it's interesting. Another country one. Okay, then we go from her to a kind of New Mexico. Most people don't look at New Mexico as being a real big city state. It's going to have some little small town kind of feel about it. So we see this girl who's a police officer. They're doing the bad boys cops thing, so they're proud to be police officers. And she comes out, does this thing with Harry with the handcuff thing and everything, and handcuffs him so he can be cuffed while she's singing. Again, a little weird, but hey, whatever. And when she does sing, it's interesting that she's actually a pretty good singer. What's interesting though is I responded exactly how Harry did, and that was, it was really good, but something was underwhelming. Something didn't take him all the way there. And this is a recurring theme that I'm going to bring up all the time, and that is, there are some definitions that I'm still trying to find the best words to explain it, but let's just say that musically, there is a state of musicianship where you're able to get all the way there. Okay, so whatever the moment calls for, emotionally and technically, you're able to get there. Okay, I think my son David's a really good example of that. Like a Celine Dion type of singer. They're people that really understand emotion in a song and what's needed, and they put the right amount. They measure it up and they fit the right amount in there, and usually a little extra, so that you feel like, ooh, I got a little bit more than I expected. Okay, that's what Rihanna didn't do. I think that's what Harry was implying, and that's kind of, or inferring, and that's kind of what I'm feeling as well. Is that she was really good, but I felt like depth-wise, there's okay, you almost got there, but you didn't quite get there. And by not quite getting there, you left something to be desired. Okay, so, again, I don't anticipate her going very far, even though she's got potential. She's someone that just needs a good mentor to help develop her musicianship to a higher degree. All right, moving right along. We now see some people that have auditioned in the past that are coming back. And one of them is Siobhan. And, what an interesting vibe she has. Again, a very real artist, someone that's real believable. They're authentic. You can tell she's probably been through some things. So her emotion that comes out is interesting. Again, I don't know if she's got the depth. This is another big challenge is we'll have to see as we go along. Then we get introduced again or reacquainted with Corey Wheeler, and I'm sorry, but I'm just not into. I just don't think he's got the X factor. I think he's someone that is good, but shouldn't even. I'd be very surprised if he were to make it through Hollywood Week. He's just a very good but not great, and I don't see him being able to get great through Hollywood Week. All right, now. Okay, so next we're coming up with a small segment where we see some familiar faces from previous seasons. I'm not quite sure what the motivation is behind this because I didn't think that either of the Siobhan was the only one that I thought seemed like a real artist and that had some potential. Nicholas and the country girl, neither one of them sang in tune. Neither one of them got to the center of the pitch. They both were flat on all their notes. There's no way they're going to go very far. I can just tell they don't have the musicianship necessary. So Corey and Laurel, neither one of them are. And Siobhan, she's, like I say, I don't know how much depth she's got, but she's got a really cool vibe about her, and I'd like to see more of her. So I just don't know if she's going to be able to have it. Like I say, I think some other people are going to swallow people like her up. They're just not going to have enough. I mean, they might make the top. I could see them being in the top 24, but I'd see them going pretty early. All right. Now the next thing is we see this interview with Scott Borchetta and Nick Frediani discussing how progress is coming on his album, and the funny thing there is that was basically Scott Borchetta pleading the fifth. I don't think much happened on Nick's tour, and as far as writing in all these cities, what that's supposed to mean, the main thing is, is anybody really asking about the guy? Again, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just saying, is there something I don't know? Because it doesn't seem like Nick really ever got any traction at all, and I don't see him doing much. So I think all the eggs are in one basket right now, and that is this final season they've got to find somebody. Now, I can tell you already, the next guy coming up, what they said, here's what's interesting, is basically Scott Borchetta in a way was kind of like dissing Nick right in front of his face by saying, well, yeah, I think we found it, I think we might have found it. And then right after he makes this statement like, yeah, this season, we're really hoping we can find that special person. And he said, yeah, I think we might have found it. And then who's the next person that comes up? Joshua Wicker. And you listen to Joshua Wicker, first of all, the guy's real meek. Okay, and let me just tell you something. Again, remember who the majority of the people are on the show. Country folk. Humble. Real meek people for the most part. And so when I say that, you got to realize that this Joshua guy is really going to appeal to everybody. First of all, what could be a better story than his opening line about family? He's about family and church and just being a good guy. He's got a beautiful wife, and it's like, wow, these guys just look like and he looks like Ryan Gosling. Okay, so he just looks like he should be somebody that should do well. Okay, then the guy starts singing. And he's got one of those voices, meaning there are 5 or 6 guys that sing just like him, but they're really good, and they're famous people. And if you look at some of those guys, I could give you some names if people are interested, but there's some phenomenal voices, and he sounds just like them. Well, the good news is he's so good compared to most people. He's the most polished, absolutely by far, of any of the people that were on tonight. And what I mean by that is his range of emotion. He's got a lot of the in-between steps really down. And I think that's going to allow him to really go emotionally deep into any song that he does. I see him as having the most depth, which means the most emotional potential to communicate with the people listening. So I would say right now they're putting him as the target. They're putting him up there. And I'm sure there's going to be some other people from some different angles, but this guy is definitely somebody that I could see going really deep in the competition. All right, so we already know, and he's got the great story. They show his new baby. They bring in all this other follow-up similar situation. They bring in another pastor and his wife with a little baby. But here, this is an interesting contrast to the first people, to Joshua Wicker. Jordan and Alex Sasser come up, and the difference is Alex really seemed to think she had something that was good enough, and she's like blaming it on all these other things. And I thought, wow, she might be hard to deal with. She might have some ego issues and just some self-image issues, because she wasn't even close to being good enough. I mean, she had nothing special about her singing. I'm sorry. So I'm afraid she's kind of delusional. I don't think she's got a realistic self-image. And then her husband, I don't know if it's just me or not, but he just seemed very effeminate. And his Celine Dion expression was, it reminds me a lot of guys I know that are very into Celine Dion. But they're not married to a beautiful woman and have a nice little baby, and they're not pastors. So this guy's really got an interesting vibe about him, because it just doesn't, he seems to have different personalities in him. And I'm curious what he can do. As far as his singing, it was interesting, but again, I don't know how, let's see what he does. I think he'll be interesting to watch, but I'm not expecting him to go very far. And I feel sorry that his wife is so taking it so selfishly, and wow, I got a lot of weird vibes from that whole scene. Nothing felt right. I just got weird vibes. Got to be honest with you. All right, so that brings us to where? One of the best, next best, and okay. And I did feel very uncomfortable with the wife's reaction. She seemed to be completely self-indulgent there and self-engrossed, and I'm sure she was let down, but boy, something didn't feel right. So I'm not anticipating that vibration to go very far in this show. Okay, next up is the person that I think, this guy's very special. Okay, Kerry Courtney. And let me tell you something. This is the closest I've come to getting teared up over a contestant in a long time. But let me tell you why. When you think about it, the best musicians are those that seem to have felt the deepest level of emotions. They've broken through certain barriers that most of us haven't been to before. And because of that, they're able to feel things maybe deeper than most people feel. And they can be good or bad. But what happens is sometimes it serves as a tenderizing experience. It really tenderizes someone's heart. And you know what? There's so much sincerity in this guy's story with his mom. Some of the stories you can tell they're just thrown together because they need a story. This is a real story. You can feel the depth of love that this son has for his mother. And you can feel that he experienced, as he explained, and if you may not have noticed it, but he mentioned something about emotions that he didn't know were there. He felt emotions that he didn't know existed. So what I'm saying is, I think he's been to places emotionally that very few people have been to and been able to come back from and express. If you think about it, that's the beauty of what this guy does. It's real feeling. He's been places that very few people have been. And he's figured out a way to express that in his music. Okay, so when he was singing, it wouldn't have mattered what song he was singing. I think he can take any song and figure out a way to emotionally sculpt it properly. Some of the stuff that we tried to do with David when he was on the show. And in his Christmas music especially. Okay? Anyway, the concept is that this guy knows how to kind of like take you on an emotional journey. And like Harry was just captivated, and J-Lo, she even mentioned that there was like an edge to it, a darkness. Well, I think it is a darkness because it's a place he never wanted to have to go. To feel that much pain, to lose someone that meant everything to you. And you can tell he really means it. So anyway, sorry to get on a soapbox about this guy, but I also just felt his demeanor was extremely genuine. I didn't feel him being insincere, but I'll tell you what, this guy seems really smart. He reminds me kind of David Cook in some ways, which not musically, but personality-wise. And again, I got to know David Cook extremely well. And I'll tell you what, he's a really good guy. Really good guy. I respect him so much. He treated David, my son, so well. Before, during, after, and, just a real good guy. And what I want to say is, Cook was so intelligent because he's the one that figured out how to come up with something that would be even cooler than what David had done with Imagine. At one point, the show seemed concerned that it was going to be a very imbalanced season. And they needed someone to step up, and Cook came out of nowhere. But his decisions, his musical decisions, are genius. The guy's very, very intelligent. I felt a lot of people didn't give him credit he deserves, and still don't. But great guy, great musician. I think Harry Courtney's like a Cook, meaning, and even more so because I think what Carrie's doing, he could literally create a genre. Meaning he's morphing several elements of different indie and edgy moments, but inside there's a sweetness to it. So it's like paradoxical. So I really, really, really want to see what he's doing next. He's somebody I'm going to go do some homework on. I'll tell you that much right now. I'm really, really interested in him. Now, can he stay mainstream enough to play the Hollywood game? That's going to be interesting. We don't know what the challenges are. Group performances could be really challenging for some of these indie guys. So like I say, I think this guy is really interesting as a musician. I want to know more about him and as a person. And I really like his personality, and I feel there's a sincerity and genuineness to him and an intelligence about him. This guy could do a lot of things. I'd love to work with this guy. All right. Next, but not least, definitely, is Shelby Z. And what I will say that what's really fun about her is the conviction that she sings. And she does remind me of someone that was just on The Voice. And I think it was another Shelby. And it's just that dead center of pitch, that power. It's like that her support behind what she's doing. Every single note seemed to be right, full and centered and powerful. And again, she's somebody I really want to see what she can do because I think she's got a really interesting personality. We'll have to see again. How can she morph and transition and recreate herself? She's like a couple people from previous seasons, but I think way more musical. Her musicianship, her inner musicality is really phenomenal. So again, I think I'm going to do some homework on her too. I want to hear more of her, kind of know where she's coming from. But I'd say this first round of auditions, we're not. I'm not going to worry about the Kanye thing. I mean, those of you, if you want to watch it, go watch it. It is what it is. Nothing I don't really have a comment. I mean, I thought it was fun to watch, but it was, kind of cheesy. All right, but again, that's why a lot of people love American Idol, right? You got to have those elements of cheese and just downright old school 1950s style, family friendly type of stuff, right? So, okay, so quick review. I'm going to go backwards to forwards just to make this simpler. Shelby, definitely somebody to watch. Carrie, absolutely someone to watch. Jordan, interesting. He's several notches below as far as my interest level, but curiosity just to see how him and his family develop through this. Joshua Wicker, absolutely phenomenal. Someone definitely to keep an eye on. The people they brought back, Siobhan, yes. Corey and Laurel, no, not feeling it. They're kind of like, they're in that category of the best they could hope for is what's happened to the last several male winners of Idol, except for Scotty. And that is just nothing's really happened for them, like I say, they're good guys. They're good musicians, but I didn't feel they figured out. Okay, let me just tell you what. This is one of the biggest things you need to know to be successful in Idol. Okay, I'm just going to throw it out there. You need to know what makes you unique from any other artist that's on the show. And you need to figure out how to fit that in. That you need to kind of make that like your trademark. And you've got to fit that into every single one of your songs somehow. Okay, that's what David Archuleta did. That's what David Cook did. Adam Lambert did that. Carrie Underwood did that. Daughtry did that. Taylor Hicks did that. You just cross the board. I'm not playing favorites. Kelly, I'm sorry I'm leaving some out. But those are just the obvious ones that are really, really good at that. Okay, so moving right along. Rihanna, borderline. Siobhan, interesting. I'd like to see what happens with her.
Over the river and through the woods.
I'm not even going to mention.
Nightmare we go.
Let's fix that real quick. Okay, you caught the sarcasm there, right? Kind of like the Harry Connick comment about Vendita being staying close to the melody. I can't believe they put that Kanye scene in. I mean, with F-bombs and everything, I don't know, didn't quite work for me. But anyway, it's Kanye, I guess. He can do what he wants, and American Idol's going to jump all over an opportunity, so hey, it is what it is. Okay. All right, continuing with the rest of the contestants, working again backward to forward. Rihanna, I think she's okay. I just don't see her going very far. I'd like to see her go far, but I wasn't sensing that she's got the depth that she's going to need. So we'll see. She's got power. I don't know if she's got soft and pretty and all the in-betweens. She's good, but I just don't think she's in the elite league. Sonica, definitely. I'm curious to see what she's going to come up with. She does have a real cool story vibe, good presence. She's real pretty. She's small and petite. I mean, I think she's got a lot of things going for her. She's unique, and I think she's real endearing to the audience. So I'd say keep an eye on her. Geneva Rose, I just think she's a sweetheart. I want to see her go far. I don't know if she's going to be able to. The cello's not probably going to work well in the competition, but we'll see what happens. Same with Lee John. I just don't know if he's got enough maturity yet in his musicianship. So I'd say I don't think he's going to make it, but he could be a sleeper. There's going to be a 15, 16-year-old boy, and we'll see who else shows up. I'm not thinking he's the one. I think there's going to be some better ones. Let's just say that, okay? And from there, Josiah, not so sure he's going to go very far. Like I say, he's unique. He's a fun kid, but I'm not seeing a lot of depth. Emma Shumry, same thing. She's really cute and spunky, but I'm just not seeing her having the image that is in the elite category. She's a sweetheart, but I see her being good for her regional area. I don't really see her getting into that elite world class category. Okay, so I think that's going to be my final comment for this first episode. This has been my first attempt at something like this, so again, I appreciate your patience. I'll work on my facial expressions, which I know sometimes I get way out of control, and I've got nervous twitches with my eyebrows, and guess what? It's just me, and I've done it my whole life, and I don't think I'm ever going to figure out how to not do it. But at the same time, please get over my little quirks. I hope you enjoy my comments. I do think some of my ideas might be really helpful to people that are trying to get good at music. And really throughout all of this, that's really what my ultimate motive is I love music. I'm hoping that other people can gain a greater awareness and understanding of music and how it works through some of the comments that we're trying to share and make and point out, observations and this and that. Because ultimately, we need better musicians in the world. We need better music. And what I mean by that is music with more positive feeling and emotion. It's like energy. And when you run across people that know how to create that kind of music and know how to help other people discover that within themselves, because the cool thing is it comes from within. And once you learn how to tap into that within yourself, you're able to express very, very meaningful messages through the way that you communicate sounds. And again, look at Carrie, look at Joshua, look at Sonica, look at Shelby. Those are the four I think that really could. They're definitely serious. I could see all four of them making the top 24. Okay, I'll just say it right now. Not sure any of those others really jumped out as me as being strong enough, but those four definitely have some potential. So, look forward to next episode later tonight. Again, thank you for your patience. Due to my newness at this, I did get a late release of this, but I'm hoping that I can do it much more time sensitive moving forward. And again, I appreciate those of you that have already made some contributions, made some comments to what we're doing, and questions. And like I say, that's the whole point. Is I've got a lot of real cool ideas and experiences I'd love to share with you over the next few months. All right, talk to you soon.